Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, the honorable lecturer, Prof. Swandi, Prof. Yan, and also my beloved friends from Khusus One. Today, our topics in Sociolinguistic is about pragmatics. Me, Lily Sulistanti, as the first presenter, will explain about speech act theory and implicature. The subfield of linguistics called pragmatics. However, when the utterances are interpreted with reference to the context, including the setting, speakers, background knowledge, and so on, this falls into the realm of pragmatics. Pragmatics is perceived as being distinct from sociolinguistic. In particular, we incorporate topics which involve how the identities and relationship of speakers influence their linguistic choice and how they are interpreted. Next, we continue with the first is about speech acts theory. One thing that many utterances may be said to do is make proposition. They do this mainly in the form of either statements, question, or other forms. Number one, constative utterances are connected in some way with events or happenings in a possible world, that is, one that can be experienced or imagined, and in which such proposition can be said to be either true or false. For example, I had a busy day today. It can be an experience. Have you called your mother? It is about question. And your dinner has ready. It is statement. Number two, ethical proposition. Ethical proposition, just like an ordinary proposition, may be true or false, although not in the same sense. The purpose of ethical proposition is to serve as a guide to behavior in some word or other. For example, big boys don't cry. God is love. Big boys don't cry is obviously value-laden in a way in which your dinner's ready is not. Number three, pathic. In pathic communication, the actual act of uttering is more important than the content. Than the content of the particular utterance. Pathic utterances are used to create a sense of solidarity and establish contact between interlocutors rather than to convey communication. For example, nice day. How do you do? Next is about performatives. Austin, 1975, a philosopher, distinguished another kind of utterance from this, the performative utterance. In using a performative utterance, a person is not just saying something but is actually doing something if certain real-world conditions are met. For example, to say I need the ship Liberty Bell in certain circumstances is to christen a ship. Austin pointed out that circumstances mentioned above can be prescribed. He mentioned certain velocity conditions that performatives must meet to be successful. The first is a conventional procedure must exist for doing whatever is to be done, and that procedure must specify who must say and do what and in what circumstances. Second, all participants must properly execute this procedure and carry it through to completion. And the last, the necessary thoughts, feelings, and intention must be present in all parties. In general, the spoken part of the total act, the actual speech act, will take the grammatical form of having a first person subject and a verb in the present tense. And then Sadler works 1969, 1975, 1999 about particular type of speech act. In particular, what makes a promise? For Sadler, there are 5 rules that govern promise making. The first is the propositional content rule, is that the words must predicate a future action of the speaker. The second is about the preparatory rule. The third is the require that both the person promising and the person to whom the promise is made must want the act done and that it would not otherwise be done. The fourth, the sincerity rule, requires the promiser to intend to perform the act, that is, to be placed under some kind of obligation. And the fifth is the essential rule, say that the uttering of the words counts as undertaking an obligation to perform the action. Sadler says that neither of the following is a promise. Example, a teacher says to a lazy student, if you don't hand in your paper on time, I promise you I will give you a failing grade in the course. Next example, a person accused of stealing money says, no, I didn't. I promise you I didn't. Alright, here for the first or the former utterance is a threat, and then the second utterance or the latter is an assertion. Thus, use of the word promise is neither required nor adequate to make a speech act a promise. Next is about locution, illocutionary acts, and locution. Locution are the use of actual words and grammatical arrangement according their function and not their form. For example, shut the window. It's cold in here. These utterances are locution. Why illocutionary acts is the intent of a locution. As in the example about closing the window mentioned above, conversely, a speaker can also use one locution for many different purposes. Its called here could also be a complaint, an explanation for why the red wine is not at the right temperature, or a request for something other than closing the window. Perlocution can cause or ask listener to do things. With the example above about shut the window and it's cold in here, it can cause the listener to shut the window or give the speaker maybe a cup of coffee, or maybe give the speaker wine to get the weather warmer. Next is about implicature. Greece 1975 maintains that the overriding principle in conversation is one he calls the cooperative principle. Make your conversational contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose or direction of the thought exchange in which you are engaged. Greece lists for maxims that follow from the cooperative principle. They are the maxim of quantity, the maxim of quality, the maxim of relation, and the maxim of manner. The maxim of quantity requires you to make your contribution as informative as is required. The maxim of quality requires you not to say what you believe to be false or that for which you lack adequate evidence. Relation is the simple injunction to be relevant. Manner requires you to avoid obscurity of expression and ambiguity, and to be brief and orderly. Greece lists briefly one such analog for its conversational category. Number 1, quantity. If you are assisting me to mend a car, I expect your contribution to be neither more nor less than is required. For example, at a particular stage I need 4 screws. I expect you to hand me 4 rather than 2 or 6. Number 2, quality. I expect your contribution to be genuine and not spurious. If I need sugar as an ingredient in the cake you are assisting me to make, I do not expect you to hand me some. Number 3, relation. I expect a partner's contribution to be appropriate to immediate needs at each stage of the transaction. For example, if I'm mixing ingredients for a cake, I do not expect to be handed a good book or even an oven cloth. Number 4, manner. I expect a partner to make it clear what contribution he is making and to execute his performance with reasonable respect. Next is about the concept of cooperation. All conversation is a cooperative activity in Grecian sense, one that depends on the speakers and listener sharing a set of assumptions about what is happening. Conversation makes use of the cooperative principle. Speakers and listener are guided by consideration of quantity, quality, and so on, and the process of implicature which allows them to figure our relationship between the said and the unsaid. Alright, I think that's all my explanation about speech act theory and implicature. And my partner Mbak Tia will continue the next explanation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi friends and my beloved lecturer, Prof. Yan and Prof. Swandi. Today I am a second presenter, would like to present about politeness and address terms. Before, my partner, Bu Lilis Sulistianti, has explained about speech act and implicature, and now I would like to present about politeness and address terms. Before we explain my presentation, I want you to like, subscribe, and comment in my channel. So let's we go to the presentation. Okay, for the first slide about politeness, according to Brown and Levinson in 1987, everyone has self-public image which has relation to emotional and social sense of self and expect everyone else to recognize. And based on this theory, it forms a term of face. And face divide into two, face saving act and face threatening act. Okay, next, it is also based on Brown and Levinson in 1987. Politeness in interaction can be defined as the means employed to show awareness of another person's face. So when we talk and communicate with others, we should apply politeness. Okay, then about phase 1. Within their everyday social interaction, people generally behave as if their expectation concerning their public self-image or their call phase 1. So someone who talks, someone who speaks will be respected. And meanwhile, if some action might be interpreted as a threat to another phase, the speaker can say something to lessen to possible threat. And this act called face saving act or FSA. And the other phase 1 called face threatening act. What is face threatening act? when the speaker says something that represents a threat to another individual expectation regarding self-image, and it is described as face-threatening act. Okay, and then about kinds of face-saving act or FSA. It is negative face when the need to be independent, to have a freedom of action and not to be imposed by other. For example, when your friend asks for a ride to the airport, so it will be negative face when you think that is not favorable. I don't feel like driving this guy to the airport. I have other stuff that I could be doing, like sleeping or saving gasoline in my car. He can find his own ride. This response called as negative face in face saving act. And then the second type is positive face. When it called positive face when the need to be independent, to have a freedom of action and not to be imposed by other. So this is the differences between negative face and positive face. For the example, like the previous example, when your friend asks for a ride to the airport, it will be positive face when you think I better take him because I want him to like me and I want the reputation of being a reliable person. Okay, so when in negative face, we don't need to when in negative face we need to impose by other, but when in the positive face we do not to be imposed by others. Okay, in conclusion, we can say that the negative face is the need to be independent and positive face is the need to be connected. Okay, and then the relation about politeness and indirectness. So indirectness is a device of politeness. When we would like to apply politeness, we should use indirectness. In pragmatic is concerned only with intentional indirectness. Okay, and then about true and false, I don't know how to say that. This distinction began as a difference between plural and singular. So we can write with the symbol T and V. Asymmetrical T or V usage symbolizes a power relationship, and the first about symmetrical T usage show the intimacy. People using this for had strong common interest, showed the solidarity. So when we are talking with friends who is already recognized, we can use the symmetrical usage. And then about symmetrical V usage become polite usage spreading downwards in society. It was used, for instance, between wife and husband, parents and children, and lovers. So for the symmetrical V use is more polite than the symmetrical T use. Okay, now we are talking about address terms. Asymmetrical use of title, last name, and first name indicated inequality in power. So when we say someone's name with maybe title and then family name, so we should know how to say incorrect. And then but mutual title, last name indicated inequality and unfamiliarity, and for the mutual first name indicate equality and formality. So address somebody by title is the least intimate form of address, in that titles usually designates ranks or occupation. When we using another first name is a sign of considerable intimacy. So the first name is more used when we are saying someone's name when we close with them, like that. Stating how people should address each other. When in England, we can omit the address term when greeting someone, but in French, that avoidance could be impolite. And then, as your family relationship change, issues of naming and addressing may arise. And for the example, how do you address your father on your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, like that. And then finally, an additional peculiarity is that people sometimes give names to an address. It is non-human as well as human. Okay, so we should call the name, we should say the name as well as human. Okay, and this is the example how we should call the human as well as human. For example, how we address your pet if you have, and how do you address your kids or kids in general. We should differentiate how we should call someone, or maybe animal, pet, and other. Okay, that's all the presentation from us. We can continue the discussion in WhatsApp group. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.